Welcome back to America's Voice Live. So the left blames the right for any and all violence that occurs in America, despite their terrible policies. They say it's right-wing militia groups and the like, and completely ignore Antifa, for example. It's an idea, as President Biden once said. But is that totally true? Of course not. Here to discuss it, the president of the Crime Prevention Research Center, Dr. John Lott. You know, John, it's interesting. You've got these DAs like Gascon out in L.A. and others around the country that are weakling DAs, or by design. They were financed and put into office basically by George Soros. That's fact. He got these folks into office. They got rid of bail. They got rid of real accountability. They continue to blame the victims and don't hold the criminals accountable, and then blame the right. Oh, it's guns or whatever they come up with, right? It's never the left's fault, no matter how blatantly obvious it is. Thank you for being here. What are your thoughts?
No, I mean, all the district attorneys around the country that George Soros supported in this fall's elections won. And, it's kind of amazing. As you say, it's not rocket science to explain why crime rates have gone up. If you're not prosecuting violent criminals, if people who go and steal from stores aren't being prosecuted, it's not risky for the criminals to go and commit crimes. Police are, even with the reduced budgets, are extremely frustrated because, they see the people that they arrest are immediately put back out on the street. You have people that are being put out, even those that are charged, face little or no bail. Is it surprising that you release somebody who may be facing 30 years in prison? Why not go and commit another murder? Because it's essentially, what are you going to do? Give them a second life sentence? The first life sentence that they're already facing wasn't enough. So, it's like no additional penalty that you can impose on these guys. And so why not? They get free crimes. It's not difficult to understand what's been happening, but unfortunately, you have business leaders from Walmart and CVS and others talking about the fact that they're losing billions of dollars and that they may each year in theft, and that they may have to close down stores. And the problem is that the stores that they're going to close down are in poor minority neighborhoods. These Democratic DAs claim that they care about the poor, but they only seem to care about criminals. They ignore the fact that the neighborhoods where these crimes occur are overwhelmingly Black and Hispanic poor people who lose their jobs in the stores that get closed down, who lose their places to go shop in the places that get closed down, and whose own homes in those areas where property values fall because of the higher crime.
Sure, but here's the problem, John. You see, if you point out facts based on numbers, like you study, that you go through and you evaluate the numbers, and here's the crime rate, and here's the destruction, here's the unemployment rate, whatever that might be in these different communities, and then you bring up the fact that the Black and brown communities are being negatively impacted, then they just slap you with, well, he's a racist. He's one of, but they can use the term people of color and so on and so forth anytime they want, freely, and they can use the term white supremacist and domestic terrorist and all of that. And that's all perfectly fine because the media gives them a pass. You and I do not get the advantage of being able to talk openly, logically, and intelligently about a lot of things without getting smeared. Two-tiered system of media in this country. And that's one of the problems.
Well, I mean, I agree with you, but I mean, they can call me a racist for pointing out that it's Blacks and Hispanics that are disproportionately harmed by the crime in these areas. I mean, who do they think are the victims of the crime directly? Anybody who's looked at the crime data knows that Blacks primarily murder other Blacks, Hispanics overwhelmingly murder other Hispanics.
But you're not allowed to say that. That's right. The point, John. You're not allowed to point out the factual, statistical analysis of what's really going on, you see. That's where you're wrong.
Well, I may be wrong, but I'm glad you're there. At least you're not calling me a racist. But look, they can call me a racist. I don't care. The listeners out there are going to hear that I'm concerned about the crime and the many other collateral penalties that are being faced by Blacks and Hispanic poor people. And so if that makes you a racist because you're concerned about not the criminals, but the victims and the people who are indirectly harmed, well, then fine, they can call me a racist. But it seems any intelligent
My
person that
point
listens,
being is, John, my point
right?
being is when faced with facts, the Democrats fight back with smear jobs
Yeah,
against
okay.
you, against me, against anybody, right? It's just a smear job. If they don't like the narrative, especially if it's rooted in statistics and fact, the way you do your work at the Crime Prevention Research Center, always based in facts and statistics and analysis of what's going on, they just smear you. They come after you and say, oh, more guns, less crime. That guy doesn't know what he's talking about. They're bad statistics. And I've heard it all
Yeah,
about you specifically, right? I mean, you get smeared.
I get attacked all the time. So
Yeah.
uh, just had a 7,000 word piece in the New Yorker going after me and stuff. So it just, I don't know what else to do other than I think most people understand the simple point that we're making. If you don't make it risky for criminals to go and commit crime, they're going to commit more crime. And the people in those neighborhoods, not just the direct victims, are going to be harmed. So I don't know what else to say.
A 7,000 word piece about
Yeah.
you, man, you must be right over the target.
Well, they paid the guy $150,000 to go, apparently, to go and spend 14 months digging into my life, interviewing people I haven't talked to in 40 years from college. So, who knows?
Yeah. But see, and again, not digging into whether or not what you present is true, not
Right.
digging into whether or not the statistic you have are true. But let's see if we can find some dirt on Dr. John Lott. Let's go to the University of Chicago. Let's go to Yale. Let's go talk to his elementary school pals. I mean, that's where they spend the resources to discredit you because your work's not being discredited, smeared, but not discredited because the numbers and the facts are the facts, right?
Seems pretty straightforward to me. But, what we always do on any of the research that we put out, the data is put out on our website at crimeresearch.org. I don't ask people to take my word for any of these things. The data is there. They can go and check the original sources. Links are there so that they can do it. And at some point, the sad thing is that there are lots of researchers who are dissuaded from going and publishing in certain areas because they want to avoid the tax themselves. And
Well, here's something else that you point out. I want to go back to something you just said here. The guy that wrote the 7,000 word piece was paid $150,000. Not sure how you know that. Doesn't matter. I trust you. Paid $150,000 to spend a year digging up dirt on you. So he wasn't paid $150,000 to spend a year to come up with nothing.
right.
He was paid to deliver a product, and that is a negative piece, hit piece on you. And that's the problem with government all the time. They requisition studies, pay however much money for a gun control study. There's a certain outcome they want. They're buying results ahead of time on you, on gun control, on a host of things, right?
Right. Look, I mean, the federal government spending like $50 million this past year on research done by public health people. They know in advance what the views are of the people that they give the money to. I've long argued that the federal government should just stay out of doing this type of research because they can't divorce politics from the money that they go and give out. These guys aren't stupid. They know who agrees with them, and those are the people who go and get the money. And then what they do is they go and hold up these studies where they already know what the conclusion is going to be beforehand,
Right.
as to support the different policies that they want to put forward.
That's what I'm saying. Same thing went on during the pandemic with COVID. It goes on with gun control numbers. It goes on with digging up dirt on Dr. John Lott. All of it. If you pay for an outcome, the Steele dossier, whatever it is, if you're paying for an outcome, you better get your outcome, better get your money's worth. Dr. John Lott, though, his work is impeccable. And if you don't look at his work on a regular basis, you're really missing out. Crimeresearch.org, great stuff, because John is nothing if he's not diligent about what he does. Doctor, always good to have you here.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate you being out there, Steve.
Thank you, sir.